My impression of Howard Menger was that he was a man who most people would like. He was quiet. He was calm. He appeared to be a very thoughtful man. He would seldom give out with a fast answer. He would consider his words and his answers to every question you would ask him. He was a kind man. He was a kind of a person that you'd like to have as a neighbor. He minded his own business. He was on the quiet side. And that's why I think he commands so much respect, because people don't expect to have a guy talking about flying saucers who looks and talks like Howard Menger. He's a father figure.
As a psychiatrist, I certainly would say that Howard appears in every way to myself to be a healthy, good citizen, a sound mind and body, as most of these people are. We've done formal studies on this long ago.
It was just logical to assume that there are non-terrestrials throughout our cosmos. And if they are coming now, as they have come in the past, why could not this young man, who had a good business, who had a family life, who was well known in his community, was well respected, why should he go through all this trouble to get ridiculed and harassed and lose a lot of his business? And for what purpose? It certainly wasn't for money. We lost heavily trying to get this message across. He eventually lost his first home, and when we were married, we lost our farm home, and we had to just pull up stakes and start all over again, no home at all, and work very hard. So for all those skeptics out there and debunkers, we get very angry, especially I do, when they say, well, you're doing it for money, or you're trying to sell your book. We have mortgaged our home to publish that book because we didn't want it altered, and we didn't want the photographs to turn up missing again. So we did it ourselves. So this is not a labor of money, it's a labor of love that we have done for 35 to 40 years. So I was convinced at that time that he was doing it for the same reason. He was losing pitifully economically. But something was really pushing him on. And I'm very glad that later on the government came and backed him up to do some of the things he had to do. Unfortunately, it didn't last very long.
Menger's most fascinating adventure with the space people was his trip to the moon in August 1956.
Well, I remember getting in a craft in the same location. We called it Location 1 in Hybridge, New Jersey. They invited me in the craft. And they didn't tell me right away where we were going, but I found myself in outer space with a Polaroid camera, and there were about 8 or 9 people in there with me, aliens, and a man, a friend of mine from Hybridge, New Jersey, who I still don't mention his name because he doesn't want to mention it, but he was in the craft with me. Went to school with him. We were up, we could see through the portholes the Earth getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It looked like a blue tennis ball with white clouds over it. Finally, we could see the moon approaching and getting larger and larger through the portholes, and I took pictures of the moon on the other side of the moon, where there's a line between the light and the dark, and there was like a small city there. And our government knows all of this. They know it all, but they're keeping it from the public. Time is very difficult when you're flying in these aircraft. For instance, there's something I did notice on the moon trip. I thought it took 10 days. But when I come back, I didn't have to shave. So that's less than 8 hours. So there's something here in their technology about time. They're time travelers. As far as I know, their technology is so advanced we may never even have left the planet in a craft. We might have gotten in a craft and through their technology contacted the moon section and put it on a screen, and I thought, who knows? They're so far ahead of us that I really don't know.
Anytime that he came back from what he called a contact, he seemed to be very elated, very happy and elated, and just bursting with happiness or goodwill. It seemed to affect him that way.
The early phase of his contacts with the extraterrestrial visitors inspired Menger to develop theories about electromagnetism and gravitation, and to experiment with exotic UFO propulsions on this base.
So what happens in my theory is that the electromagnetic field surrounds the disk, cuts off the cosmic particles coming in, so that gravity, which is a push, my theory, is no longer a push in this area because it rises. Allowing it to rise, it cancels out the push that I call gravity. That's my own explanation. Now, whether it's true or not, you know what, I don't really know. But on that theory, I did get a craft off the ground. 1951 was when things really happened, because I built an anti-gravitic electrodynamic propulsion 4-foot radio-controlled craft, which looked like a flying saucer. And I flew it quite a bit around Hybrids, New Jersey. And one time in the afternoon, it got away. My controls, I lost control of it, the radio control. And it went up about 500 feet and then went west. And I was pushing buttons like mad, and it just didn't respond. It got away. And there goes approximately, today's dollars, $60,000. Now, in those days, money, a dollar was a dollar. And it took me 2 or 3 years, a period of that time, to come up saving that kind of money and buying the parts to build a craft like that. But it was successful because 2 weeks later, FBI agents came out of Newark, New Jersey, to my shop in Washington, New Jersey. I had a machine shop and sign shop there. And they said, Howard Menger? I said, yes. They said, well, we want to tell you that your craft crashed, and they showed me the pieces, on the Ohio-Pennsylvania border, which is several hundred miles from Hybrids, New Jersey. So that's, and it crashed. I don't know whether it hit a tree or what happened. And they traced me from the parts. I bought these parts in electronic shops and hardware stores on Route 22 in New Jersey. And they went to these stores and traced it down. And they're very good at this. And they came right to my shop and said, stop, don't do it again. Keep quiet. You will be visited by some representatives from the Pentagon. They are interested in the propulsion system. So, by the time in the late 50s, they kept coming back in this and that. Now, I didn't put a lot in the book about this because they said not to. But in the 60s, they didn't have a contract, as you spoke of, but they did sponsor me to go to Colorado Springs and actually build, in cooperation with 80 other scientists, engineers, and all types of men who knew what they were doing,